You've all heard that a picture can tell 1,000 words. You've all heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a book cover is probably worth 1,000 sales because the book cover really sells your book. People get an idea and a feel for who you are, what your topic is, and who the book is meant for just by seeing the book cover. So a book cover can work for you, and a bad book cover can work against you. On today's episode, you're going to learn the elements of what makes a book cover pop and how to stand out from the crowd where every book cover seems to be done by the same designer or the same set of Canva tools. Hi, I'm Dan Janelle. I'm a book strategist, which means I'm a book coach, developmental editor, and ghostwriter. And no matter where you are in the book writing process, I can help. You can find more information on my website, writeyourbookinaflash.com. Now, let's get started. Our guest today is all the way from Australia, Julia Kuris. How are you today, Julia?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. Thanks for joining us today with our very different time zones. We're going to talk about 4 different book covers that you've designed that popped. And I have to tell a quick background story that I just met Julia on LinkedIn. She reached out to me, and I get a lot of calls on LinkedIn. And I checked out her website, and I said, wow, these book covers really pop. And my audience needs to know about you because you can make a book really, really stand out. So if you're watching the YouTube version of this, as opposed to the audio podcast, go to my YouTube channel where you can actually see the book covers that we're going to be talking about. Our first cover is called Yes, Chef. And you can see it here that there's a plate with the words Yes, Chef written on it with a black and white tablecloth background reminiscent of, say, the Italian restaurants, and a little blurb in the corner that's actually a chef's hat that says, hilarious, a 3-course delight by Crudité. I guess that's a reviewer. So cool. So Julia, tell us about the origin for this book cover. How did it come about?
So the book was initially written as a way of guiding new talent into the industry. And it was about how to inspire them, how to give them a bit of a roadmap. So when I look at a book cover, I always think, what would be the most familiar and relevant way to bring the design onto the cover that follows the design rules, but yet breaks them? You know, can we bring a texture? Can we bring a dimension to it that would just be like that circuit breaker? You know, because when you're standing in a physical bookstore or online, scrolling through books in the same genre, you need that something that feels familiar, but also gives your eyes and your brain a chance to go, hang on a second, this is different. And you pick it up in your mind, you go, let me explain it to my brain how it's different. And so that was the thinking behind this book. I thought, plate, let's bring like a tablecloth texture, pull it together and create that dimension of the cover.
Great. Now, what input did the author have originally? Did they say, I want a plate, I want a book cover, or did they just say, here's what I'm doing, have at it, surprise me?
Pretty much it. You get a title and a subtitle. A lot of the time a title is a working title, so they're still workshopping a lot of, the language around the subtitle or the words. And then I run with ideas and I pull together a collection of concepts that really showcase the different design directions that you can go. So some would be presented in a photographical way where you get imagery and photographs. Others are just purely typographical, where it's just a background and text on the background. And then we go through a process of elimination. So in some cases, it is a collaborative process where I get a lot of input from the author, where they have very specific ideas, and then we expand on those.
What's the best way that you found to work with an author? Do you want them to give you, say, a list or show you a bunch of book covers they like or a bunch of book covers they don't like? You know, how can they set you on the right direction? Because you're a creative person. You can come back with 1,000 ideas and we're only going to print one.
Yes, exactly. I always like to make it a collaborative process, and in the creative brief that I send to the author, a lot of the time I will ask them to supply thumbnails of covers that they like and dislike, just so that if there is a particular color that they really don't like, that I won't give them all of a sudden 5 designs with that color, you know. But I also tell them that the covers that they like don't necessarily need to be in their space. So it could be in a completely different genre and they like it for a particular color or a font or a particular image caught their eye. So I like to incorporate their ideas, but I feel that as a designer, I need to bring a lot of my own ideas to the table to show what it can become. So sometimes the authors will focus on the writing itself and the editing rounds. And so they might have a fairly narrow view of what the cover can be, or quite a literal interpretation of what should be on the front cover. And I'm just able to expand that and go beyond what would typically be on the cover of a chef's book.
Great idea. Great information. I'm curious about subtitles. There is a subtitle here. I can't quite read it on the screen, but I'm sure in the final version that shows up on the podcast, we'll have the final wording. But how do you fit in a long subtitle, or can a subtitle ruin the whole design of the book? How do you work with the subtitle?
With the subtitle, I always say that a front cover is such an important piece of real estate. You really need to be very clever with what makes it to the front cover, what makes the cut. And so if the subtitle is very long and wordy, there is a way of incorporating that. We just might need to compromise in the sense that it becomes a typographical cover where the subtitle almost becomes like a secondary title. And I have done a book like that where it's effective and it stands out, and it's almost like 2 parts of the title reading together. But if the subtitle is really on its own, I always suggest to make it short, punchy, because that's what really grabs our attention, isn't it?
Exactly. Great. Let's move to our second book, which is the Little Pink Book. Can you describe that book for us, please?
Yes. So the Little Pink Book it's a guide for women that are going through breast cancer, and it was put together by an oncologist in Sydney that works with women Australia-wide. And really the idea behind this book was to give these women a resource. I can imagine that it's such an overwhelming time where there is so much information that's coming at them. And he really wanted to give them something that has a little bit more heart and soul, and just something that they can carry with them. So the size of this book was really important. It was really important to make it like a little keepsake, so it doesn't look like another textbook or another pamphlet that they're given, almost like a personal diary where they can highlight parts of it, take their own notes, mark the pages, and just something that looked a bit more special from the clinical notes and resources that these women would get. And so there was a lot of questions and stories shared in that book. And so that was the idea behind the design. I wanted to create it like a texture diary.
And so you've chosen several elements. I can't even describe the background, but it's soft and inviting, and it is pink. And so can you tell us a little bit about the background picture and the fonts that you use? Because you have a combination of capital letters and small letters and pink in pink color. Just give us a little bit of background on how you decided to do all of that. Because again, there's nothing about body image or body shapes on this book cover. And I have seen other books that were more clinical that did have pictures of women's faces and photographs and such like that. So I'm just curious why you chose this. And it's not a criticism. In fact, it's a compliment, because it does seem like you could pick this book up and read it on the bus and no one would look at you twice and saying, oh my gosh, what is she reading?
Yes, exactly. So the keeping the discretion and keeping the privacy of women that are going through this was important. But also, I feel that within this space, to put a face on the cover, or to put a body part or even a contour on the cover, a lot of women might look at that and think, well, that's not what I look like. therefore this isn't me. So as a consumer, a lot of the time, we make meaning of things, and we decide them within seconds, whether we're shopping for dishwashing liquid or cereal. Anytime we see ourselves in a particular space, we can either go, oh, that's just like me, or this isn't me. And so going through a breast cancer journey is very personal. So I didn't feel putting any imagery like that would be appropriate on the cover. And also because we had that notebook diary idea in mind, I thought, well, why not highlight it by introducing like a soft pink, I forget the name of it, but the stitching across it just creates that soft texture that gives it the idea of like a diary. And so I wanted to overlay that with quite a modern typography. And so it's called the Little Pink Book. So the word little, it was very appropriate to have that in the lowercase, and then pink, obviously in pink, and book in uppercase. And just to create a little bit of a difference on the title. So it stands out, it looks modern, and it looks different, and something that they want to keep and carry with them.
Yeah, it looks soft and plush. It almost doesn't look like a book cover. It almost looks like a pillow or whatever that texture is, which is clever. And also, this is an example of a book title that without the subtitle, you really wouldn't know what it was about. But the word pink has almost become identified with breast cancer, with Breast Cancer Month, the Breast Cancer Run, and such like that. So by having the word pink in pink and then the subtitle, Complete Guide to Breast Cancer and Its Treatment, makes it stand out. So very nice, very nicely done. I was immediately drawn to that. Great.
Thank you.
Let's look at our next book, which is called Trying to Conceive, and tell us a little bit about that one.
So Trying to Conceive, that's a fun one. Again, it's quite a sensitive topic, a very personal and emotional journey for couples that are trying to have a baby. And so to bring a little bit of humor to it, after they spoken to many couples, they found that it was important. It was important to have that a little bit of lightheartedness amongst the story sharing and the heartache. And so I'm a rule breaker when it comes to designs and front covers. So I thought, what would be fun without being very graphic, and what could be a little bit suggestive, but also fun and playful. And so that's why I thought a cover of suggesting, a couple in bed and all you see is their feet, and the sheets on quite a striking red background, with the subtitle that follows the lines of the bed sheet is fun. And we complemented that with a font that's casual, almost like a little handwriting look and feel about it. It's all lowercase, Trying to Conceive, just to break down the formality of it, because again, they are in the space where there is a lot of medical information that's coming to them, at them, clinical records, research, like all of that. And so something to be the circuit breaker in their experience and in their journey.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head here with the perfect kind of cover, because when I was looking on Amazon at other books in this genre, they were very clinical and photographic and contour. Like, I'm learning words from you. I love that contour. Like, and they were frankly very off-putting because they were so clinical, and they had said there seems like stress involved, which is the last thing anyone needs when they're trying to conceive. And instead, having the feet pop out from under the covers, it definitely grabs you and grabs the eye, which is the whole purpose of the book. Great. So our last book that we're going to talk about is called Marketing to Mums. And before we talk about your cover, I'm going to show you a cover that I found on Amazon called Marketing to Mums. It was written by someone else, and it is frankly boring. It's a block of black text with black background with white text with the words Marketing to Mums and a subtitle. And the photograph underneath it is basically long-legged women wearing very expensive, fancy, high-heeled stilettos, which really doesn't say marketing at all. It may not even say mums at all. When I saw that, I said, that's completely misses the mark. because when I saw yours, it was so perfect because it does have the words marketing to mums. It has a shopping cart with the UPC barcode and the subtitle how to sell more to Australia's most powerful consumer. So it grabs you because you see the shopping cart, but it's not really a shopping cart. It's the barcode, and everyone knows immediately what you're talking about. So tell us a little bit more about the origin of this story, and how did the author relate to your idea for this? Did they get it right away, or did they want moms in stilettos?
Well, Katrina McCarter, she's actually writing her third book at the moment, and we'll be working on the cover together. Look, she is a phenomenal entrepreneur in Sydney, and she does an incredible job with working with women, and teaching them how to market to moms, which is a huge market in Australia and globally, I can imagine as well. So initially, we experimented with many different ideas, and in the first round of concepts, there were a lot of photographical concepts and photography. We didn't have heels because I wanted to steer away from that cliche, because in reality, how many moms are running around constantly in heels? It's not relatable. It looks cheesy, and we all love a pair of heels, but it's not the constant world, the constant existence of and being of moms. So marketing to moms straight away says sales, obviously. So we needed to capture that essence. Well, we couldn't have the typical, dirty pots in the sink, or like, piles of washing or something like that. Actually, I think I did have a laundry basket on the front cover, because again, that would be relevant to moms. So we're trying to capture the essence of what everyday mom looks like. And of course, there's no typical kind of mom. But when you talk about the marketing aspect, you're really talking about sales, because that's what every business owner would like to do, sell to moms. So that, they have that $sign in their mind. And barcode, that just instantly came to mind, because I thought, women are forever swiping credit cards and buying something, whether it's groceries or clothes for kids and things like that. So I thought, let's see how we can incorporate the two. I had this idea of bringing a barcode onto the cover. I just didn't know how. And so this idea was born. And it works well with the subtitle, How to Sell More to Australia's Most Powerful Consumers. So when you have the words marketing and sell, you straight away see barcode. That we could have gone with $signs, but again, that would be cliche. That would be very typical. And we steer away from that in the design space. I do anyway.
Yeah, well, I think it's very clever the way you turn the barcode into a shopping cart. Great. My last question, let's talk about colors. Are there some colors that you found work better in selling books, or some colors in or some colors out? Does it go through cycles?
It doesn't really. I always look at the genre. So I will do a bit of research if it's a self-help book, or if it's a book in leadership space. So I will have a look at what's already on the market. And if there are a lot of books with yellow backgrounds, then I will go the other way. So I wouldn't say that there is any particular color that's off the table. Perhaps I wouldn't do a brown background on the book cover, because that might not be very appealing. But I feel that every color has a place. It's just how it's used. And I guess every color has a message that it carries. So, for example, I've got a cover called Handle with Care, and it has a feather on the front, and it has a very soft, pale blue background. Now, you would typically think that blue pale background wouldn't really stand out as much, especially in that space they've got bright red covers, but it works. It works with the imagery. It works with the title. It just has that softness about it. So I wouldn't say it's seasonal or even, I guess, trending, but every color has a space and a place.
When should an author start thinking about the cover and getting in touch with the designer?
I always say at the stage where they start the editing process. So when they get their manuscript back, after the first round of edits to start working on the cover, and really for two reasons. The content is evolving, and so they're gaining more clarity about the actual message of the book and ideas of what feels right on the cover, especially when they're presented with like 10 concepts of different design directions. It, the writing piece and the design piece work well together, because a lot of the time authors would say, oh, it's so interesting you put that on the cover, that symbol, because in the book, I actually have a piece where I talk about that. And that was just purely a coincidental moment, because I unfortunately can't read every manuscript. I read a short synopsis at the back and I run with it. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is such a big portion of working with a book is black text on white background. It's just all text. Again, it serves as a circuit breaker for them, for the authors. And all of a sudden they get excited because it's just something colorful and fun and creative. A lot of the time they say to me, oh, this is so fun. And, it's like my escape when I get to see a new round of revisions of covers. So it just activates a different part of the brain and also makes it feel real, So when they see the cover, it's that Oscar gown on the red carpet when they're promoting the movie, that's when it becomes a reality. And so a lot of the time they'll say, I have to get this done. There's no turning back now that I have that cover. Mm-hmm. So, and I've been hearing that for 15 years. So that's why I always say that first round of edits, start thinking about the cover. So you're not feeling rushed in the end. Because I have had some authors come to me going, oh my God, the manuscript is finished. And now I have to think of the cover. Like, I can't actually believe it. I knew it needed a cover, but here I am. It's about to go to print, do something quick. You never want to be in that space because it's the cover that sells.
Right. Very good. Thank you very much. Great. Julia, how can people get in touch with you?
They can feel free to check out my website, desginerbility.com.au, and I have all my social handles on the website as well.
Great. And we'll put them in the show notes as well. And no matter where you are in the writing process, you can find more than 100 interviews with lots of tips on how you can write your book in a flash on this YouTube channel. Check them out. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.